Good morning and welcome. Thanks very much for joining us this morning for the third and final session of our series of webinars for the QualitEE Project's final conference. I am Nick Keegan from Eves Insight. We're a London-based independent assurance provider for energy services, and we're UK partners for the QualitEE Project itself. So over the last 2 days or so, we've had some excellent sessions looking at the energy services markets across Europe, the toolkit that the QualitEE Project has developed for procurement, technical and financial quality assessment of these types of services, and also testing of these tools in 28 real-world projects spanning 11 European countries as well. Today, we're going to be hearing about the business cases that have been developed in these 11 European countries to institutionalize the quality assurance tools into quality assurance schemes. These schemes have the potential, I'd say, to tackle trust and low information barriers that we've identified in our market research, and to drive uptake of energy services, energy efficiency services that I believe will be critical to delivering against our net zero targets. Most of those schemes are in development at the time being, but we're also delighted to welcome Monica Auer, who for our second presentation. She's going to share some insights from the DECA scheme in Austria, which has been in operation since late 2017. So some views from a bit further down the line. And at the end of the session, we're going to have a unique opportunity to ask questions of some of the experts that have led the development of the schemes in each of these 11 countries. There's been some really interesting challenges and opportunities in each country that's led to a variety of different approaches being taken. So I'd really encourage you to take this chance to delve into their insights. You can, of course, ask questions of our presenters here as well. So to technically ask the questions, just type them into the question panel that you should see as part of the GoToWebinar controls there. Our Q&A moderator, that's going to be Rodrigo later, he'll select your questions and he'll pose them to the relevant experts. We'll do our best to get to all of the questions that come through to us, but if we don't get to yours, we'll try and follow up with you after the session and fill you in then. Yeah, thanks very much for your participation on that. I think it can be a really good session if we get some good questions in. So that's great. Yeah, and if you missed our other sessions or if you want to review them, all the presentations and recordings are on our website. If you look at the chat panel, you can find the link to that, and there'll be a follow-up email after this session that has that link as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rodrigo Morel. He's the managing partner at Spanish consultancy Creara. Rodrigo has been heading up the QualitEE Project's work on quality assurance schemes and is going to share some of the key findings from that work. So Rodrigo, if you'd like to switch on your camera as well.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Nick, for the introduction. Thank you, first of all, to all the audience for staying with us still on Friday after 3 sessions. And thank you to all the consortium and the ones that were pretty much involved in organizing all this event in difficult circumstances. Basically, what we've been doing for the last 2 days, as Nick has introduced, is going through the whole project deliverables and what were the things we've been able to put in place during the 3 years that this project has been developing. Things like the market surveys conducted to relevant actors in the energy efficiency market, the quality assurance, quality criteria, technical criteria, which have been developed, the procurement handbooks, which can help providers to acquire and the market to acquire energy efficiency services, some interesting pilot projects which have been conducted and where the quality criteria have been tested. What we are going to show you now is, I think, one of the most relevant outputs of this project, which was a challenging one, was are we able to develop quality assurance schemes which can really help several European countries to build trust in energy efficiency services. And this is, I think, one of the most challenging ones, because it doesn't depend only on you, but it's something that you need the help of the whole market in order to be put in place accordingly. So just to start with it, as we saw the previous days in the market survey, which was conducted in 15 European countries, energy efficiency service providers face several relevant barriers. Well, the ones which responded the surveys pointed out two really powerful barriers: the lack of trust in the ESCO industry and the complexity of this concept. So at the end, we understand it's a difficult concept, and the market is telling us that in most of the cases, we have not been able to make it understandable and easy, and to make providers reliable enough so that the market can still grow and can evolve further. There is a lack of trust which we should tackle. On the other hand, what we've been asking in this service to the industry is, but how can we build trust? And there is a relevant consensus around quality assurance schemes. What they're telling us in the answer is that quality assurance schemes can be a powerful tool to provide a better trust, a higher level of trust to the market. Then that's proving that the approach we were following was quite a good one, creating quality assurance schemes in the different countries, which can help increase the trust in energy efficiency services and energy efficiency projects and providers. But how should this be done in order to be successful? This is something which does not depend just on yourself, but on the whole market. The whole market has to accept these schemes as good ones to self-regulate and to make the market grow. And probably the worst mistake we could commit was just selecting one existing quality assurance scheme and implementing it in different countries, because the circumstances and the specificities of each country are different. So the thing is that it's something that works in one country doesn't have to work in a different one. So we put in place a thought process, a route map to create these national schemes, which is based in 4 steps or 4 routes. The first one was, well, let's have a good understanding of the business models which are in the market and are successful, and see how they work and compare them. We studied different business models like DECA, quality label, ISO, passive house standards, several ones which have been in the market for a long time and have been successful. This should provide us a rationale on how to develop in each of the countries and what things we could take and select from these models and propose to be added to the national schemes. The second step was to establish a national promotion team, which should be a reduced team of like 3 to 5 experts coming from energy efficiency associations, trade associations, public authorities or financial institutions which are which usually work with energy efficiency companies, so that this national promotion team should decide the boundaries of the scheme, the main specificities of the scheme, so that it is successful, so it can increase trust in energy efficiency services, but on the other hand, it is adapted to the market. The third step was to gather the market, and for that we created what is called national discussion platforms, which is a long list of members in these teams coming from the offer side, the providers of energy efficiency services, financial institutions, clients, relevant clients, mainly from the private sector, but also from the public ones, and the policymakers. Why did we want to bring these national discussion platforms in place? They should be the ones to understand why it is relevant to have these quality assurance schemes created. They should help us to build the script of these quality assurance schemes, why it is important, how to structure it, why we all as a sector should support it and should help these schemes to grow and grow further. And the fourth step was to basically build and write the national business cases for quality assurance schemes, describe which are the outputs of the previous steps, and establish the certification frameworks. The objective we had is that at least 8 European countries could establish these quality assurance schemes out of the members of the consortium. What should we consider when you're implementing a quality assurance schemes? The range of options you have is infinite, but we should try to structure it and in order to get the best model for each country. Some of the questions we need to answer to ourselves was what's going to be the target user? Are we talking about qualifying projects or qualifying energy service providers? Are we talking about both of them? So that was one of the first answers we need to have. Another one was the scope. We needed to define the scope of the scheme. Are we talking about public schemes, private ones, semi-public? Which of them? Another relevant question was what's going to be the authority under the system? A government agency, an association, a trade association, private companies, etc. The fourth question the fourth classification we could have is range of compliance, or define the enforceability of the scheme. Is it going to be mandatory, which is very difficult as we proved it, or should it be a voluntary scheme? Or, for example, in terms of quality control, how are we going to control projects or providers? Basically, when we talk about projects ex ante, ex post, and there were more debates, for example, in terms of who's going to pay for the scheme to be tested, etc. These were the questions we've been answering, and finally, in this table you can see, well, for 4 of these main criteria, which is the target, the scope, authority, and compliance, the result in 11 countries. Main results of this analysis, or main comments we could have is, for example, as you can see there, only 2 quality assurance schemes are tackling projects, the one in Austria and the one in Czech Republic. Also, the one in Czech Republic is mixed. It analyzes both the project and the provider, and gives a score to the provider. 4 of the schemes have been developed under the support of public authorities, which we understand it provides an extra value, well, basically it usually makes the schemes easier to spread in the market. It's the cases of Czech Republic, Greece, Latvia, and Slovenia. And well, as you can see, all of them are voluntary schemes, which is it makes sense. It's difficult to make a scheme compulsory. And well, we will see what happens in 2 cases, Germany and Belgium, which are the exceptions in this process. As you can see in this summary table, looking at the range of institutionalization of approaches taken by the partner countries. We have, for example, the case of Spain, where the scheme proposed is going to be integrated into a national standard, which is developed 3 years ago, already published and running, but it didn't consider up to now quality criteria and the approaches that it gets these quality criteria on board, so that the scheme is more fruitful and has more information, can provide more information to the market. Well, government schemes like the one in Czech Republic, which is a mixed model. Both the project is certified at the first stage, and once the provider has several projects individually certified, also the service providers is certified. Models which are supported and developed by trade association schemes, like the ones in UK, which is in process. It uses sample projects verification, or the one developed by DECA in Austria, which also provides a project level label for energy efficiency providers. There is another level of institutionalization, countries which opted for developing the scheme under an ESCO registry, that, as you know, it's compulsory under the Energy Efficiency Directive, which has been implemented in the different EU countries. Well, these ESCO registries are incorporating the quality assurance quality criteria. So as we mentioned, it gives more information and more reliability to the users. Or the case of including the quality criteria in the European Code of Conduct for Energy Efficiency Providers, which is the case of 2 countries like Bulgaria and Slovakia. And as I mentioned, we have 2 exceptions, the cases of Germany and Belgium, for different reasons. Either it was found not enough demand in the market for a certification, because there are things which are pretty similar already, or in the case of Belgium, the market was not sufficiently mature to install and implement a scheme like the one we were thinking about. In order to give you a little bit more info, what we've done is analyzing 3 specific cases, the ones of Spain, UK, and Czech Republic. so that you can have some insights on how these cases have been developed. The one in Spain, as we mentioned, was developed by UNE, which is the national standardization body. It is a private standard, voluntary one, and basically it's been promoted by the sector itself. The trade associations have been participating in developing the standard. It defines a classification of energy service providers, but the classification up to now, the one which was implemented when we had access to it, classified basically companies only under quantitative criteria. How many projects you've implemented, how many technicians you have, how many regions have you covered with your projects, but it didn't include qualitative criteria, how well these projects have been developed. The granting of the standard was done under a very simplified process. Companies contact certification bodies. An initial audit is conducted, and if basically everything is okay, the certification is provided for a year. After 3 years, this standard is not working as it was foreseen, and basically one of the things which is thought as a lack of this standard is that it doesn't give a qualitative approach on the specific projects, if they're well done or not. So when we came to the organization that developed the standard and proposed to include quality criteria, the first impression was that it could help the standard to be developed, and we're in the process of including all that in a new version of the standard. In the case of the UK, well, in this case, the authority is a trade association called ESTA. It's also a voluntary scheme. The target is the EPC provider, and quality control is done ex ante and ex post. Basically, it provides a quality label based on verified capability to deliver EPC projects, and the granting of the label follows a process which is similar to the ones we're seeing. Basically, the EPC provider fills an initial application where it demonstrates its capability. Usually, ESTA requires a sample project, which is analyzed. If anything is not good enough, ESTA asks for extra documentation, and in this case the reviews are every 2 years. So for 2 years you get the granting of this label. In the case of the Czech Republic, the main difference with the other systems, the other standards, the other schemes, is that in this case it's a public standard. As we mentioned before, this system is set up so that it certificates both the provider and the single projects. And basically, once you have passed several projects and the evaluation is good, then the provider is also included in the scheme, in the system. It gets the right label. The good thing about the project is that it's been fine-tuned in cooperation with the Ministry of Industry and Trade, so that it fits the institutional framework of the Czech Republic. And basically the process is quite similar as we saw in the previous cases. We went very quickly through all these models and through all the whole process of developing these quality assurance schemes in the different countries. But you have lots of information in QualitEE website. Both I'm putting in this slide the links to both the business models we analyzed in terms of quality assurance and the different business cases for all the countries where these business cases have been studied and in most of the cases implemented. So we stick to the 20 minutes we had for this presentation, but as Nick mentioned before, we will have a Q&A session afterwards. So feel free to send any questions you have about the different business models of these quality assurance schemes implemented, that we will have all the experts to answer to your questions. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. That's really exciting to get an overview of all the projects in one place, and I hope it's starting to inspire some questions. He'll be back for that Q&A session later on, so please start typing in your questions for that in the questions panel. We've really got a great opportunity to tap into the insight of the experts that led the development of all of those quality assurance business cases. So do tap into their knowledge while you can. So yeah, as I said, whilst most of those schemes you've just heard about are still in development, our next speaker, Monica Auer, has a unique perspective to share from a scheme in operation. So yeah, to introduce Monica, she's the General Secretary of ERGOT, which is the Austrian Society for Environment and Technology. She's a member of the board at DECA, which is the Austrian ESCO Association, and that organization launched a quality assurance scheme for energy efficiency services in late 2017. So yeah, she's going to offer some insight to us on the challenges of securing uptake of such schemes and the potential policy actions that are needed to support them. So thanks very much, Monica. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Is I think still appropriate. So thank you for the invitation to present the DECA quality assurance scheme today and share with you some of the experiences we've made with it so far. Yeah, you're talking with me, and thank you, Nick, for the introduction. So I can skip this very quick. I'd like to introduce DECA very short, so that you know how we are settled in as an organization in Austria, and then I will skip through the scheme itself. So to give you a whole impression, I will skip through this very quick because there's quite an overlap to the quality assurance scheme developed in QualitEE. So you have heard this, I think, yesterday from Clemens. Yeah, the story behind DECA. We founded DECA in 2003. It was a loose network of companies without being a legal body at that time, dealing with energy performance contracting issues in Austria. It was mainly caused by the Austrian federal EPC program that was launched at the beginning of this millennial. And 2013, we turned into a legal association. The vision is energy efficiency services are a vital part of energy transition and of climate protection. We understand us as a vital part of this, but also we are going hand in hand here with the renewables in not only in Austria, but in general. But this is important to say. We have looked at these things together. Our goal is to be a voice for energy efficiency towards decision makers in order to change political decisions to be more friendly to energy efficiency topics. we want to increase quality standards in energy efficiency services on the market in Austria. We want to raise awareness for the need for energy efficiency as a whole. And last but not least, support support for private and public households in Austria on their ambitions to set up energy efficiency projects and services. So we have at the moment 38 members. It's regularly energy service providers as well as companies in the field of home automation, of facility management, of plant engineering, heat supply, project development. We have market mediators, planning agencies, energy consultants, architects, craftsmen, and executing companies. And we have category special members, which is open for providers of energy efficient technologies, but as well as everyone who's interested in energy efficiency, or like students, interest groups, scientists, but as well banks and funding agencies if they want to talk with us. So energy efficient services with qualities, this is the mindset we have developed long before we talked about quality criteria for energy efficiency services, such like guarantees for key service elements, not only ecological, but also economic sound solutions, respectful handling of resources, maximizing the using of saving potential within buildings and facilities, renewable energies I mentioned before, and the efficient operation of facilities. So let's come to DECA and this quality certification scheme we set up. Perhaps a word before, because QualitEE is a project which has a predecessor. It was called Transparency. It was more or less the same consortium as in QualitEE, and we developed quality criteria already in Transparency, which we built on in QualitEE. And DECA took this quality criteria and established the certification scheme that I will now skip through very quick. This is the label. Our expectation or our goal is making quality visible, and therefore to set quality standards in the market, to increase the trust of customers in energy efficiency services, and then as a result of it, boosting the market development in Austria. This was our goals. We came to the DECA label in five steps, following 5 questions. Of which energy efficiency services do we talk? From which elements in activities does this services consist? Which quality criteria can we observe here? And what we need on which criteria do we need to evaluate those quality criteria? And how can we test these criteria? So these are the energy efficiency services we defined. It's more or less, I think, the same as in QualitEE, from energy consulting over performance contracting or other contracting models, only energy efficiency measures the implementation, recommissioning, and to the implementation or introduction of an energy management system. Which elements and activities are part of these energy services? It's beginning at the left side with information and motivation, consulting, analysis, planning, financing, implementation of the measures, operation and optimizing them during the project duration, monitoring and controlling, and last but not least, motivation and training of the users. These are the 9 main topics we came up from. Adequate analysis. I think this is the part Clemens covered yesterday, over savings, guarantee, verification of energy savings, to maintenance, users comfort, users information to comprehensible contractual stipulations. And each service has several quality criteria. It's here only in German. I'm sorry, but I couldn't fill in the English one. We have 7 energy efficiency services, as I mentioned before, and we have 9 quality criteria. And in this graphic, you see here which criteria should be met by which energy efficiency service. And in a second part, we say every quality criteria has several test criteria, and you see this here on the example of energy management systems. You have the analysis, the verification of savings, communication, and the user's information and motivation. And this sums up to, I think here, 13 different test criteria you have to look at if you want to have the DECA label for this project. The granting. This certification is of the implementation process is the main part of the EES, not the technical implementation itself. So this is important to say. We don't look at after the craftsmen if they installed things properly, but we are looking at the process of the implementation. Not the provider, Rodrigo told it before, not the provider gets the label, but the project. It's a system of self-declaration, so the energy service provider registers at DECA's website, signs the self-commitment, declare that all the energy services they provide that carry the DECA quality label meet the label criteria. And it's free for members of DECA. Non-members have to pay an, I think, small annual service fee of 125 euros. The thinking behind it was that it should be a very low barrier to enter the quality system. So each project gets then a unique ID label. That's the rhombus you saw before, standing on the corner. It has a unique number, and so customers can be sure that this is correctly generated. And the company must provide specific information about the project before he can draw this label or this sign. How can you be sure as a customer that the energy efficiency service provider meets or is in compliance with the standards? It's a quality criteria set you can use before the project starts and after the project. So customer and EES provider can sit together and before the project starts decide together which criteria should be fulfilled in carrying out the project and which not, because there are always some criteria which does not fit to the project, or the customer can also say, that's not important for me, so we can skip that. So you have then an agreed set of criteria you have to meet, and after the implementation of the project, and if the project is goes over a very long time in certain intervals, you look at it and you have to verify the compliance of the criteria. Are they met or not? You fill out this in a verification form. This is an Excel provided by DECA. It's everyone can see that Excel. It's not a hidden document, but open source. In case there are doubts or conflicts during the project, the client can assign a DECA member to check if the criteria established have been met. I will have a look at that point later on again. We released the label in November 2017, and now let's have a look at the results since then and at the experiences we have made in this last 2 years or more than 2 years now. So we have now 14 registered providers. This is not very much, but not small also. We have now 25 projects labeled with is a little bit enttäuschend. Don't find the word. I'm sorry, I'm looking for words. I'm not really healthy today, so concentration is not at the best level. 25 projects labeled.
Disappointing is the right
disappointing word. Thank you, Clemens. The registered companies are all members of DECA. We gained one member who registered before and then got a member of DECA. So this was a kind of benefit, obviously. When we launched it, it was interested to see that administration, politics, other organizations in the field of energy efficiency, in the NGO sector are very interested, find it great work, and are very interested in the ongoing process of being accepted at the market or not. And very much from other countries. I had different questions about it from all over Europe. And what we can say is we have no conflict so far in the project. So the quality criteria are, I don't know that in fact because we didn't make a survey, but they are met or they don't look at it. So you have to be honest here, but no conflict so far is even good. It's an open source system. So I mentioned it before. The Excel sheet for evaluation, it's more or less the heart of the system because it's so a real working tool for customer and provider. Where you can work on with. It's can be used as a checklist for customers, for instance, who are willing to prove if they met all issues concerning the quality of a project, for instance, advance or during the project. So it's a kind of self-empowerment for customers as well. The challenges, and now I will describe these challenges from different point of views. One is the one who carries out the sign or the label, which is DECA. And the main theme here is, but this is something that we knew in back in November 2017 when we launched the criteria, the label. You need really huge financial resources or personal resources to establish such a comprehensive label that goes so deep into the quality, like DECA's label. So this is something we have to face. I'm not talking about financial resources for marketing in a narrow sense, but in a broader sense of lobbying in administration or funding bodies to build in criteria in their, for instance, subsidizing or funding schemes. This is a very important thing to gain and will be a goal in the years to come, I think. But this is a really time-consuming thing. Clients and EES providers, we had a few projects that we tested in Austria in using or applying the criteria to their project. They were completed projects who were during the who were finished with the technical implementation and had a short time of praxis. It was first hard to get projects to be tested on, to be honest. And the feedback was it's too complicated and too complex, especially for smaller projects, because the transaction costs are too high. And we are talking from, I think, when you go through the quality criteria tests, about 3 hours or 4 hours of sitting together with the providers and talk about the quality criteria. So this doubles not only with the evaluation after implementation of the technical measures, but also with monitoring during the whole project. This is one, the clients are, and this meets, I think, the first or the second slide of Rodrigo. Clients are not interested in energy consumption and energy costs, but in comfort during the implementation of the project as a first step, but then in using the building or using the facilities which are improved. And third point, energy service providers very much told us, or very often told us, my clients know me, they trust me, they don't need complicated rules and lists. This is perhaps a little bit connected with our market in Austria here. Not only that energy prices are too low, which fits for any market in Europe, or but also the Austrian market is very small, not only in a geographical way, but also in a financial point of view. And the actors know each other, recommendations and own experiences count more than labels. Perhaps this will change once the market grows with rising energy prices, but this will be, yeah, this future will show us this. I think it's a little bit a mirror of the, and this is my first, my last sentence for now, and then I'm looking forward to the discussion. This is a little bit the experience at all that this very comprehensive criteria set meets or is mirrored, or mirrors the complexity of energy efficiency services and the problems we have in making EES understandable and affordable to the market and the customer is the same we have now here with the quality system. So contact info if you want to talk about the criteria or the label itself with us. We are open for discussion, and please write to office@deka.at if we shall go deeper into this discussion with you. So thank you very much. I will now.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Monica. That's very enlightening to hear from experiences down the line, and certainly the point about marketing resources. That's definitely some feedback we've had in the UK, that you have to have a sort of strong marketing presence to get these schemes established. So it's good to hear that, and certainly some learning that we can take into the development of our scheme as well. So great. Thank you very much, Monica. I'm now going to hand over to Rodrigo, who's going to lead our Q&A session, a chance to ask the experts. So keep typing in your questions, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. So Rodrigo, are you with us? Excellent.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Thank you, Monica. Well, I just left that slide with the different quality assurance schemes so that it can inspire you for more questions, although we already have several of them. So let me start with a question to Monica, which, as she just finished. The question is, in your opinion, what are the main reasons why the DECA scheme is used a little bit reluctantly by the stakeholders, either ES providers or potential ES clients? Monica?
I think partly it's the reasons I mentioned before. It's a very complex quality criteria set. I think in your overview in the publication on the quality website, it's one of the labels which are very comprehensive. And this, you know, people are reluctant to do something in addition to a project which is quite demanding for itself, and it's not in the consciousness, I think, or in the people don't think about energy efficiency services perhaps in this way, that you have to make sure that this is carried out on a high quality level. It's better to communicate with buildings, for instance, you know, new buildings or buildings you are refurbishing, that you can look at the quality criteria in this project is more common sense in the meantime than with energy efficiency services. So that's one of the explanation, but I'm not the one who knows all. So I think there are many different argumentations you can see here, and I would be curious to hear more about it, because you know, market is always consisting of very different players and very much players, and they all see this a little bit different, I think. But this is definitely one reason. It's very complicated. You need more support. We have qualification schemes, perhaps, for instance, in buildings in Austria, it's Klimaaktiv. It's a very comprehensive criteria set as well, and it only works because there is really a big support from administration in fulfilling this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There are more questions coming. One, I think it's for me. In most cases, quality assurance schemes refer to EES providers, not to projects. In these cases, are project references assessed using the technical quality criteria? Is project evaluation part of the evaluation of the providers in these cases? I would answer yes. Actually, for example, in the Spanish case, the one that I know the most, in order to evaluate the provider, the auditor, the certification body, gets references from basically the contracts. In the process, they ask you to send several EPC contracts, and they analyze if the contract is well designed, if it includes a guarantee clauses. So in the end, some of the quality criteria are included, not all of them, but well, it's the way to prove that the provider fulfills some of the criteria. So in the end, we can say that most of them are some like mixed models. We're getting more questions. Another one, Well, I will ask this to Jaroslav, which is one of our senior members in the consortium. Are EPC frameworks popular also outside the UK? So I understand this question comes from the UK. Are there plans to create quality assurance schemes for just EPC projects? I don't know, Jaroslav, if you're around. No, maybe Clemens.
I might be able to take that
okay.
question.
Yannick.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess so EPC frameworks where there's usually a public authority that is providing the sort of facilitation and pre-procured ESCOs. In my research, are quite unique to the UK. There might be some similar things developing in other countries. I think Belgium perhaps. But yeah, my research, most other countries they employ a sort of specialist private facilitator that runs a full European tender, OG tender, and they have the experience of the players in the market. So yeah. But in terms of the other part of the question. Are there plans to create quality assurance schemes for them and facilitators? I suppose it looks like most of them have focused on the EPC providers to some extent, but yeah.
And it seems that markets are more mature where energy prices are higher as well. So there are other reasons why the market can be more or less mature. Clemens?
Perhaps I can add a bit. I think a general observation is that the energy efficiency service markets are quite local markets. So they are characterized by specific local peculiarities in the collaboration between client and ES provider, how this is organized, but also in how facilitators are involved in the process. I have seen that Jaroslav is also able to contribute to the answer because the Czech Republic is also a small market where this collaboration between clients, ES providers and facilitators and also financing institutions works quite well, and in a specific mode. Perhaps Jaroslav, you can add a bit to the answer of this question, this topic.
Okay. The role of facilitators in Czech Republic, I can speak only for Czech Republic, in Czech Republic is more important as the market develops further and further. In the very beginning, the basic financing scheme and so on, those basic things were solved between banks and ESCOs, but improvement of quality of the process and improvement of the quality of the projects and improvement of the procedures so that competition was more and more fair, it's deserve of facilitators mainly. And I think that facilitators are not so important in the very beginning, but if you are to keep quality criteria in the process and increase quality, it's almost impossible without facilitators.
Okay.
My view and my experience.
Okay, we have more questions and very little time. I will select some of the most relevant ones. There is a good one. How can we imagine a common system of certification in Europe as there are so many different schemes already working? I guess, Clemens, it's ideal for you. You mentioned it partially.
Yes. I was just typing in an answer, so I could also tell it right now. I personally don't think that a common system is feasible. I don't even think that it is useful. In my opinion, as I said, there are too many peculiarities, and I also think that it is good that these local markets have developed over time, because they also set the basis for future growth. I would not recommend to try to harmonize these markets. Of course, it's always good to learn from each other, to see what others are doing and what works well, and to take up these results. For example, to take up in our case, for example, in Austria, I think personally we can learn a lot from how the EES market works in the Czech Republic. It's about the same size, the same number of clients and EES providers. So it's good to discuss these items and to get the common understanding how things work, but not necessarily to harmonize systems over whole Europe.
Yes, I agree. I think we have 2 minutes for the last questions. Last question. In reference to energy efficiency projects in buildings, is quality a market request driven by financial entities or a request from property owners? Do you have an opinion on this? Maybe Nick, could you try to answer this? Or anyone, maybe yeah. Gerd, some of the ones who are more involved in these projects.
So certainly in the UK, there is a flavour from the investors that are looking to get into projects. There's always this point that there's lots of money out there, and they want to find investable projects. So there's definitely a drive from financial entities, but certainly what we've found in developing our scheme is that at the moment, the majority of EPC contracts are not using sort of fancy financing, and they're either using their own capital or debt. So we haven't really focused too much on that in the UK yet, but I'd hope that would develop as the scheme develops. Certainly.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps I also add a bit from our point of view, just highlighting one more deliverable, one more result of the quality project. Besides the technical quality criteria, we have also developed financial quality criteria, which help to structure and organize the communication and collaboration between the ES provider and the financial institutions. I personally think that financial institutions do not need to understand all technical details, but they need to understand how value is created and secured, and therefore specific quality criteria apply for this process. And I just invite you to have a look on the financial quality criteria, which have been developed in the frame of the quality project.
Okay, I think that's it. We're running out of time. I think we've covered most of the questions. Sorry if any apologies if any of the questions is not answered, but I think we can just wrap up today's session and the whole 3-day session that we have conducted. Thank you to all the speakers and all the participants, mostly all of you that waited until the end of the session. Just to remind what Nick told you before, presentations and recordings will be sent via email, and there will be available as well on our website. And the ones that could not attend sessions 1 and 2 held on Wednesday and Thursday, you also have all the information available. Thank you to you all, and have a nice day, nice weekend. Goodbye.